Good.
Long day.
Yep, absolutely. We'll get started here. Adam Bingen had his hand up first, so we'll go right to it. Go ahead, Adam.
Hi, David. Good to see you
Yeah.
after a long second day of the draft. And I know that you would like to talk about the picks that you have made. But the first question I have for you relates to the decision to buy out Kyle Turris. Why did Kyle fail in Nashville? And how do you think the blame for that should be dispersed?
Well, that is a good question. I'm not sure that anybody knows the exact answer on that, and that's why it is so disappointing when we made that decision today. As I've often said, we were very excited when we traded for Kyle, and at times, especially at the beginning, he played really well for us, and it seemed like with Joey and he at the time, we had that 1-2 center ice offensively that we never ever had in the franchise before. But it didn't last for whatever reasons, and I'm not sure it matters anymore, because when you make a decision, you've got to move past that. All I know is that it didn't work. Kyle is an offensive center. He was very productive most of his career, but with the Predators, he wasn't productive. So whether that was the fit in terms of where he played, how we used him, we will take as much responsibility as we need to in that, and it's just over. It's just very unfortunate that it didn't work out better. It's caused me a lot of consternation for sure to have to make this decision, because I think Kyle's a really good person, and I know he's a real good player, and I just really regret that it didn't work out better for us.
Okay, we'll go to Brooks Bratton next. Go ahead, Brooks.
Hi, David. Good evening. Certainly, as you said, a very busy day. Started with the deal of Nick Bonino to Minnesota. Luke Cunnin comes in. Just wondering how you saw that deal come together, and why are you excited to bring Luke Cunnin into the picture here?
Well, I think it's all part and parcel of after the season and after the evaluations and of what we did well and what we didn't do well, and what I saw in the future. I guess first of all, I would like to comment and really thank Nick Bonino. I think he was a great signing 3 years ago. I think how he played for us, what he did off the ice for us, his leadership. I really think Nick Bonino's got more good years ahead of him, and I've also said to him on other occasions. I said to him today when we made the trade, I think he's got a fantastic hockey mind, and I certainly could see him being in hockey well after his playing days if he ever chooses to go in that route. So that's a big hole for us, and in a lot of areas. But it's also time to make some changes. And the obvious is that we get a younger player, 10 years younger. We get a player that's only been a pro a couple of years. He's 22, 23 years of age. He plays in all situations. He plays center. He plays the wing. He plays what I would call a very hard game, a lot of energy. He's got a lot of bite to him. Power play, penalty killing. I think he's just a good all-around player that is going to get better and better. Knowing from his past and following him and as a younger player, he's got lots of leadership capabilities. He's always been an assistant captain or a captain along the way. So I think we've traded a good player in Nick Bonino, but I think we've got a real up-and-coming player in Luke Cunnin. And I think he's a guy that, like I say, with his versatility, maybe he can even play higher in the lineup and Bonino on in situations. Like I could see, depending on what Coach Hines wants to do, is that he could play on our first line, or he could play on our second line if that's how he chooses, or he could center the third line. So I think he brings a lot to the table, and it certainly wasn't a reflection on our unhappiness with Nick as much as it was of how pleased we are to get a young player like Luke and the potential that he has.
Okay, we'll go over to Paul Skrbina. Go ahead, Paul.
Hi, David. I'm just curious with you talked last week about being up against it with the cap staying flat, and you freed up some space today. Can you shed some light on kind of what your plans are to do with that? Are you going to be try to be active in the free agent market, or are you going to spend that money, save it? How are you guys kind of looking at what you're doing with what you did today?
Well, I am happy with where we are now in relationship to the cap. You know, with buying out Turris, it does free up $4 million a year for the next 4 years. So that's money that we can spend, or we can, you know, keep for a different time. We have to sign, you know, going into a contract, but, you know, again, that may be some savings there. So it's given us a little bit more flexibility and breathing room. You know, my position, I think we're good with our goaltending with Pekka and Saros. I think, as I said before, with our forwards, I want to make some changes. So that's a significant change, Bonino for Kunin. But I also think we have an opportunity here to put some of our younger players in our lineup, especially guys like Tolvin and maybe some element guys like McCarron or Janot or Olivier. But, you know, starting on Friday, we're going to take a hard look at what may be available to us in the free agent market when it comes to all positions, including forward. But I think with our decision probably not to bring back Yannick Weber and we're not bringing back Holzer and Danham, who's retired, that we're going to have to pay attention and try to repair or get a little bit more depth on our third pair of defense. I'm really happy with the top 4 guys. And Tenorti's played well for us last year. I think Alex Carrier can come up and play, but if we can add one more defenseman, maybe 2 defensemen, that might be my first area that I attack in free agency on Friday.
All right, Corey Curtis, you're up next. Go ahead, Corey.
All right. Hey, David. Fun couple days here, but I got a quick question for you. Would you consider what you're doing with this team more of a retooling than a rebuilding? And I guess that goes to timeline for success.
You know, I've been around for a long time, and I think everybody kind of, you know, you wonder whether you should use those words, you know, rebuilding. I think we're a really good team that didn't play as well as it could have last year in certain areas. I've certainly said many times, I think that some of our top players could have been better. I'm thinking if you make some changes that maybe we're in transition, maybe you can, I don't know if we can differentiate that from rebuilding. I think we got a lot of really good players, so I don't think we need to have a rebuild, but I would like to get younger. I would like to have a few different type of players on our team than we had last year. And of course, the main pressure to me is going to come to see if our top players, especially our top forwards, can kind of get back to where they normally are. And if they can, maybe these few changes that we make will take our club in a much better direction than it did last year.
Okay, we'll swing over to Justin Bradford. Go ahead.
Hi, David. Draft-related question here. A few overagers taken in this draft for you guys, and talked to Tom Nolan about this and how there was a lot of extra time to review video. Do you think the ability to look at some of these guys that were passed up previous years, but having more time to review video on them and discuss them more over the pause in the offseason led to this ability?
Yeah, well, time will tell on that, but there's no question. We just sort of signed off with the scouts before I came on with all of you, and just saying how hard it has been these last 5 or 6 months. Scouts not doing what they normally do, going to see games, travel, see games, meet with players, all those things. And so we did a lot more video than we have ever done before. And I guess the answer is time will have to tell if that's something that has helped us in our review of players that we might not have looked at previously. But it was really different. It's just interesting. Like, for example, the European leagues got to open up and have been playing games, and some of those players in the entry draft, arguably you could say, benefited from that because they played and were seen, and maybe moved up on some lists, maybe our lists also. So I sure hope we can get this back to normal, because this is not the perfect way to be doing it. I think video is a great component for scouting. It brings all of your scouts who are regional and in different areas, allows them to see what everybody else sees. But I mean, being in person still, I think trumps watching tape. That's for sure.
Okay, we'll go to Sean Smith. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, David. Big announcement from the OHL today. And with that going in effect, I'm wondering if that's going to impact your plans for what you're going to do with your OHL guys like Tomasino, Afanasyev, and now Evangelista.
Well, that's the big question and problem. And you might have noticed that there's a lot of teams, and it's mostly Europeans that are under say under contract NHL clubs that are going back to Europe and playing. And one of the asks, if you will, if you're going to loan a player, will you loan him for the whole season, or do you want him back when training camp starts here? So you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, so to speak, as to what you should do. And we've only got a couple of players that are playing over in Europe right now. I want to be as optimistic as I can without knowing any more than you know. And Gary Bettman said yesterday that we hope to start January 1, which would mean training camps in the middle of December, and with this season in. So if that's the case, you know, I would think other leagues like junior hockey, colleges would follow the lead of pro hockey. Maybe they can get ahead of us a little bit, because maybe their protocols won't be as stringent. But once again, you're asking me a hard question, because, you know, who can predict what the health is going to be? But it is very worrisome, to your point, as to, you know, younger players or any players not getting to play so long. I just heard Los Angeles general manager talk after the draft, and he was asked about the future of his players. He said, well, some of our guys will be off over 10 months before they play a game. And he didn't think that was a great thing for development, which obviously I agree with.
Okay, we'll go to Gentry Estes, Tennessean. Go ahead.
Hey, David, I think the phrase rebuilding is something that us media guys probably use to try to classify pretty easy on what a team's trying to do. But is it fair to say that the Predators are closer to that mentality than maybe you have been this season, or is that not the case?
Well, that question was asked a little bit earlier. Again, we're not changing our goaltending. We're not changing our top four defense. I would be my hope that maybe through free agency, I could say in the next Zoom call that we've improved our defense. What I'm looking for our top forwards is improved play. It's not asking them something that they can't do. It's just they all had down years just from a production standpoint. So if our top forwards can play like they have in other years, you know, I could make a case that we could be way better than last year. Maybe the trade that we made today with a different type of player coming in our lineup, a younger player like Kunin, might be the catalyst that we need to get the chemistry going correctly with our forwards. So I think you're always tweaking your team, but I think we're far from you know, in a what I would like to say, or your word is a rebuild. Like right on the surface now, we're going to have changes. Hamhuis is not coming back. Holzer, say Weber. That's 3 changes on defense. On forward, Granlund, Smith, and now the trade with Nino, and the buyout of Turris. So that's 4. So that's 7 changes. You know, right there. Without, you know, if we do something else in free agency, that's a lot of changes to make. You know, right there. So I think that's a reflection that we're not happy with our team and that we want to make changes. And like I say, I think with the proper changes and some improved play by certain players, you know, we could be far from in a rebuilding situation.
Adam Vingan, take it away.
Hi again, David. I have 2 questions for you, if you don't mind. First being, with the financial uncertainty that the pandemic has caused the league, are you operating under an internal salary cap that is lower than $81.5 million? And after what happened with Kyle, do you have to exercise more caution as you consider your options in free agency?
Our franchise last few years has been pretty well operating close to the cap. You know, my goal is to, and I could say working with ownership as to where our budgets are, is right in that area. So before we bought out Kyle, and you know, we were right at the cap, maybe even a little bit over the cap. So this gives us more flexibility. And as I said earlier, it's not a case that we need to plow that right back into our team. I want to make the right decisions, and some of those decisions might just come from in-house decisions of promoting some of the younger players from Milwaukee. So I guess specifically, I don't have any financial restrictions here. I mean, obviously this is tough times for the Predators because we don't have any revenues, but our owners have been very fair and want to be as competitive as we can be. So we have all the means to spend up to the cap. If I find the areas that will make us a better team.
Adam, what was the second part of your question?
Sorry, David. The second question was, after what happened with Kyle, do you have to exercise more caution as you evaluate your options in free agency?
Well, let's call it like it is. We have got to make the right decisions. I mean, the decisions like the Kyle thing, as I say, it's painful. It's disappointing. It's frustrating. You have to ask yourself, why? And as I think your opening question, why did it go wrong? And what could we have done better? But as I also said in that question, we have to move past that. So believe me, for every decision we make, I mean, it's with hopefully good preparedness, good knowledge of the player that we're acquiring, or the opportunity or fit that we can give that player, so that the decision that we can make be as best as it can be. But there's lots of ups and downs in this business, and there's lots of inconsistencies with players and with teams. But again, we're going to make every decision we make is going to be well thought out. It's going to be talked about for a long time. I mean, we've been doing a lot of that the last, since March, from the most part, in terms of all of the meetings we've had on the amateur side and on the pro side. So, as we get ready now for Friday, I mean, we've talked about all these players. We've seen all these players. We've watched them on the video, and we just have to make the right decisions. So it's up to us to get it right, period.
Okay, we'll take a couple more for David here. Brian Bastian on the forecheck.
Good evening, David. I was wondering, since with the movement of Bonino and Turris.
Hey, Brian, could you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, can you hear me, David?
Not really.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was wondering.
Brian, go ahead and just send your question in a chat. We'll go to another one, and then I'll ask it. We'll go to Corey Curtis now.
David, two quick ones. One, when do you hope to get guys back in town and working out with the team again? And is Gunnar Wolf Fontaine the coolest name you've ever drafted?
Well, I thought you were going to ask me if this was the year of the Luke. I mean, we got Luke Kunin. Our second pick was a Luke, and we had two other Lukes. But Gunnar Wolf, I guess that's Northeastern is where I went to school. So I'll be cheering for that young man to live up to be a really good Northeastern. So it is a pretty cool name, that's for sure. I like that.
What about the getting guys back into town and working out?
Actually, we have 10 or 11 guys that have already come back. I mean, it's we don't have too many guys that have kids in school, but it's that time. I know I'm all goofed up in terms of how my calendar works, but it is October, and now we're normally playing. So even some of the guys that would say we're over in Europe or in up in Canada, it's getting cold up there. So why wouldn't you want to come back to Nashville? So I'd say we have about 10 guys here, and I think by end of November we might have about 3/4 of our team here. I think there'll be still some guys that will stay near home and then come in closer to training camp, but it's good. Roman Josi was here last night to announce our first pick, and he was just saying how great it is that guys are actually skating a little bit together now, working out, and and then as much as it permits, a little bit of socializing together. So I think that's all great for our players and their families to be together.
Hey, Brian, we'll try one more, last one here. Brian, even if you say it, I can repeat it for David. Oh, you chat it to me. All right. With the movement of Bonino and Turris and the likely promotion of several prospects to the NHL roster, what are your plans for the rest of the free agents, meaning guys like Gaudreau, Grosnick, and Milwaukee?
Again, I think we're going to give as many opportunities as we can to the younger guys in Milwaukee. In goal, I think we're pretty well set here this year with Saros and Pekka. So we're looking for Ingram specifically to have a big year. I mean, depending on who we sign, because Grosnick is not coming back, he has the net, and right now I would think he would play the majority of the games down in Milwaukee, and it looks like they could have a shortened season. So that shouldn't be a problem. And hopefully we'll get to know a lot about Ingram in terms of his abilities and how close he is to playing in the National Hockey League. On defense, I would say that Alex Carrier is the closest to playing up here, and I'm pretty sure we're going to give him a real good chance at training camp. I think Jeremy Davies, who we got in the PK Subban trade, deserves some time up here, but I'd like to see him at training camp to see how much he's developed and matured before we say that he's on our team. He might need a little bit more team time. And on the forwards, I'm open to a lot of guys. I think Tolvin, and I've mentioned his name, Ren Pitlick scored 20 goals. We have some bigger guys like McCarron that we got from Montreal, Olivier Ginot that we might want to use, what I call them, for penalty killing or some physical contribution to our team, a little bit different look. So, we got to see what we do or don't do in free agency this week. And as long as we don't sign, too many guys, some of those younger guys are going to get a good chance with the Predators for next season.
Okay, we'll do one more. Go to Justin Bradford.
Hi, David. So last night in the first round, is Askarov the guy that you wanted the entire time? Were you surprised that he was able to fall to you guys? Seemed you were pretty happy with that. And what do you think he means to this organization moving forward in the next few years?
Well, that's the classic line. We couldn't believe that he was still there, but yes, that's who we wanted in the draft. I mean, there was three guys that everybody really wanted at the top of the list, but after that, Askarov was our guy. I didn't know. I thought he could have gone anywhere from fourth or up to our pick, and there was some conversations, and I was getting all sorts of calls from people to move back in the draft, and it was all because they wanted to get the goalie on balance. So I think all the first 10 players that were taken in this draft were all really good. So I don't think we could have gone wrong. But having said that, we've now drafted our future goaltender someday. And again, if you followed and if you watched him play, or if you followed what some of the reports have been on him, that people in the know have said, I mean, this guy could be really, really special for his age. He is as good as it's come. I mean, he's as good as any goalie at his age. I don't want to say ever, but when they start mentioning guys like Carey Price and Vasily, who plays in Tampa Bay, I mean, that's pretty heady company for a young player. So again, it's when you see, if you've seen any of how he plays, his size, his agility, his flexibility, it's pretty impressive.
Okay, David, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and everyone on the call, thanks for taking part in the many Zooms we held today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Nick, and thanks everybody for on here. And hopefully, again, I say it every time, hope we get to see you in person real soon, and we get hockey on the ice with a full complement of people in the Bridgestone Arena. So sooner the better for me. Thanks, everybody.